Big Cat Rescue Feeding Class. The cats at Big Cat Rescue get fed once a day, 7 days a week. They are fed first thing in the morning. Their main diet is a commercial carnivore diet called mush, which is ground up organs and intestines. This has a lot of protein and nutrients in it and is fortified with vitamins. They also eat raw chicken, chicken necks, chicken wings, boneless chicken, chicken quarters, and raw red meat, and twice a week whole prey, already dead, humanely killed rabbits or rats. The whole prey is needed to vary their diet and also to provide them with refuge in the form of fur and bones. It comes to us from a vendor who supplies the pet snake industry, and the animals are humanely euthanized. Some cats are on special diets because of health reasons, picky eating, and etc. Special foods may be given to these animals, including lamb, pork, liver, fish, and other varieties. The amount of food we feed depends on the size of the cat and whether their weight is healthy. Every day except for whole prey day, we feed out about 500 pounds of meat. Preparing to feed. Assigned feeders, feeder trainees, and interns should check the clipboard and food prep for route assignments and any special diets and instructions, as well as the important update section of the BigCatRescue.me site for any major announcements prior to the start of feeding. Buckets are marked according to the assigned routes and are kept refrigerated prior to feeding. Feeding sheets are stored with the buckets of food for each route and should be cross-checked with the supplied food prior to leaving food prep to ensure that all the food required for the route is accounted for. Feeders should take a small feeding bucket, an extra pair of gloves, and a feeding stick when going out to feed. If an animal is on quarantine, use only the feeding stick that has been assigned to that particular animal. Do not use this assigned feeding stick for any other animal. A feeding stick is an operant stick that is used to retrieve food that rolls out of the lockout or to stick feed animals that are fussy eaters. Cell phones should be left behind or muted before starting to feed. Any disruption to the feeder can cause cats to be missed or vital observations to go unnoticed. All lions and tigers and all cougars and leopards and selected small cats' lockout doors must be closed prior to the start of feeding by a certified senior keeper big cat feeder to lock out the big cats and food-aggressive small cats out of the lockout area until all food has been placed inside. Meds must be prepared and distributed to the cats by a senior keeper feeder that has been certified in med distribution prior to the start of feeding. Transport. Hand-pulled carts are used to transport the food during feeding a route. Each route will have its own cart, and in the cart should be the food buckets for the route, special diets, supplements for the animals on the route, and a feeding sheet with each cat and their diet listed. To prevent dripping blood and food bits on the sanctuary grounds, food items should be in the buckets at all times, not laying on the carts. This includes bags of ground meat. Observations. Feeders are responsible for observing every animal that is fed. Observations are critical during the feeding process. It is the one time during the day that the animal can be completely observed. Take the time to accurately assess the animal. Any unseen cats should be reported first to the senior keeper feeder assigned to the route, and if the senior feeder cannot locate the animal, the coordinator should be called to the enclosure immediately. Be sure to make note of any abnormalities in the animal's gait as they approach the lockout. This is a time when any limping can be easily observed. During the day, many animals are only observed sleeping or lying around. At feeding time, any limping or issues affecting their gait can be detected and reported. After the food is placed in the lockout, step back to a safe distance and look the animal over completely, noting any injuries, any difficulties eating, or lack of interest in food. All animal observations should be recorded on the animal's observation log after feeding is completed. Inappetent animals. If an animal does not seem interested in food at feeding time, the observation should be reported on the chart for the animal and any other relevant symptoms. Midday and or later in the afternoon, a variety of foods should be offered by the coordinator or a volunteer assigned by the coordinator. Keep in mind diet restrictions with regards to bones and fur. Follow-up observations should be recorded, noting if the cat did or did not want to eat, and listings of types of and amounts of food consumed in ounces or pounds. If an animal was reported as not wanting to eat and the following day is a fasting day, the animal should be not fasted. The animal should be offered at least half a meal, or what they did or did not eat should be reported. Feeding procedures. Assure food for an animal is unwrapped, portioned, and ready to deliver before approaching the animal waiting in his or her lockout. Never underestimate the speed of an animal. Though they may be on the other side of their cage, they can be in their lockout quicker than a feeder might ever expect. The feeder must never place a hand or arm into the lockout for any reason, nor have any part of their person within reach of the animal. All food is to be delivered safely by tossing, pitching, or dropping it through the cage wire from a safe distance. An example, the animal cannot reach your hand. The food should be delivered onto the feeding block or into the ant-resistant bowls where available. If food rolls out or slides out of the lockout, the feeder should never retrieve it with their hand. A long stick may be used to pull the food safely away from the lockout area so that it can be redelivered onto the food block or into the ant-resistant bowls. If for some reason the food cannot be retrieved, give the animal another portion and try to retrieve it at a later time when the animal is not in the vicinity and can be done safely. A feeder must be totally familiar with the food-aggressive nature of cats sharing an enclosure and the order of feeding them to ensure their safety. And now some helpful tips by our favorite Director of Operations.
So when you're feeding a medium to large cat that's not locked out and you're feeding a chicken quarter, sometimes they're a little bigger than this, the best thing to do is to break it so that it straightens it out. Then you want to hold on to the chicken, to the thigh bone, and you want to insert the leg into the bottom ring directly onto the feeding stone. At that point, the cat will usually grab the leg and pull it the rest of the way in. That way your hand is not going too close to the cage wire. So again, break it, straighten it out, hold on to the bone, insert it into the bottom, take your hand away, or toss it into the bottom. So for a thigh, which is big like this, or a breast, you can fold it in half and chunk it in the same way, in through that bottom ring. You always want to put your food in as close to the stone as possible because you want to feed on the stone, not toss it to the cat. You can drop your food from the top, like so that it falls into the middle of the feeding stone. A softball of mush is really too big by itself to go through a 4x4, so you want to break it up into two smaller pieces. Flatten it out just a little bit so that it doesn't roll when you put it in, and toss it in on through the bottom, again directly onto the feeding stone. So for smaller cats that get a baseball and necks, I like to just take my necks and kind of squish them into the mush ball and have one neck that you can toss into the cat to distract them, and then you could drop everything else, one big ball, in from the top or from the side, so you can distract the cat and then toss your ball in. Are very anxious, they run in and out, run in and out, run in and out. Use your feeding stick. Take your stick, put the mush on the end of the stick, and insert it into the cage.
Feeding amounts. Each route has its own feeding sheet, which lists each animal on the route and the food types and amounts it should receive each day. The feeding sheets are updated frequently, so be sure to refer to this sheet for every animal every day. Food amounts are described as 1 bag, half bag, fourth bag, softball, baseball, golf ball, etc. There is a ball chart in food prep to help you judge the appropriate sizes. Additional foods including whole prey, chicken, and beef vary from day to day. Special diets, supplements, and food logs. Some cats have special dietary needs or have supplements added to their food. A list of animals that have been prescribed special diets is located in food prep. Special diets are pre-made and stored in either Ziploc bags or small buckets or bowls. These are clearly labeled with the animals' names. All feeders should know which animals receive special diets. The special diets are located in the refrigerator in the appropriate large route buckets. Every cat that receives a supplement such as Cosequin is listed on the supplement chart. The chart is in calendar form. The supplements chart can be found in the left-hand sidebar of the BigCatRescue.me site under the heading Training and Docs and then Supplement Chart. It can also be found on the Med Chart page for volunteers who have access to this site. Each animal's name is on the chart and appears on each day of the week that animal is supposed to receive a supplement. Feeders who give the supplement to the animal should initial next to the animal's name on the chart after feeding has been completed. Supplements should be mixed in a small amount of food and given to the animal prior to feeding the rest of the meal. The supplement should be fully consumed before giving any other foods. After feeding is over, the coordinator should ensure that each cat that was given a supplement has been initialed by the feeder. Some animals may require close observation of food consumption. These animals will be listed on the important updates and on the dry erase board in food prep. In some cases, their food may be weighed prior to feeding and then the leftovers collected, bagged, and labeled by the feeder so they can be reweighed to determine the exact amount consumed. In order to collect the leftovers, lock the animal out of their feeding lockout. This amount should be logged on the animal's observation log daily until further notice. Routes. Feeders must familiarize themselves with the layouts of the feeding routes as they differ from the cleaning routes. A feeding route map can be found on the BigCatRescue.me site under the heading Training in Docs and Classes and Maps. Each route will be assigned at least one senior feeder and, if available, one certified feeder, and may have 2 volunteers or interns observing or being observed feeding. Feeder trainees will learn the proper technique for feeding each animal through the observation and training process. Feeder trainees must observe certified trainers feeding the cats of each route 3 times. After this, the feeder trainee must feed with instruction from a trainer 3 times on each route before becoming certified to feed each route unsupervised. Certification is at the trainer's and the operation manager's discretion, and feeder trainees may require more than 3 observations or instructional sessions. Once certification is complete on all routes, the feeder can now act as a certified trainer to sign off other feeder trainees, if approved by the operations manager. Safety procedures. Feeders must, at all times, observe the highest standards of safety. Feeders are only permitted to feed the cats at the same level they are trained to clean. All animals are to be fed in their lockout unless otherwise specified. No part of the person may pass through the wire into the cage or come within reaching distance of any animal. All tigers, lions, cougars, leopards, and selected small cats' lockout doors must be closed prior to the start of feeding by a certified senior keeper big cat feeder to lock the big cats out of their lockout area until the food has been placed inside. Any feeder not confident in feeding a particular animal safely should notify a trainer or senior feeder and should not feed that animal under any circumstances. Cleanup. Cleaning procedures are posted in food prep and must be followed every day. When washing bowls or buckets, extra care should be given while rinsing to remove traces of soap or bleach. Carts should also be cleaned and placed in their storage area. The trash should be removed and thrown away. The coordinator should be consulted regarding what to do with any leftover foods.
All right, let's go feed. Woo!